QuickBooks Online 2022 Customer Accounts Receivable or Get Paid Center. Get ready because it's go time with QuickBooks Online 2022. Online in our browser, searching for QuickBooks Online Test Drive. We're going to be going into the test drive, verifying that we're not a robot. Sample company, Craig's Design and Landscaping Services, holding control, scrolling up a little bit to get to that 125%. We're also opening up the free 30-day test drive file so we can see the information on the left-hand side for that business view as well. You might not have access to that, but that's okay. We're in the Craig's Design and Landscaping Services once again. Last time, we took a look at the plus button up top, looked at the forms that are going to be involved in what you can call the customer cycle, the sales cycle, the accounts receivable cycle, and now we want to look at the center, which you might call the sales center or the customer center. So we're going to go into the arrow on the left-hand side, and this is the one that looks a little bit different in that other view. So if you were to do this in this layout, remember, if you were to hit the cog here and change the layout to the accounting view, you'd be back to kind of the more normal view. But here they got the Get Paid Center, and that's where you'd find the similar kind of information in a slightly different layout, but same kind of stuff would be here. Back to the Craig's Design, the sample file. We're in the Sales tab, and then up top we've got the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items up top. We've got the Overview. We've got the All Sales item. We've got the Invoices item, the Customers, and the Products and Services. Going back to the overview, let's take a look at these one at a time. I'm going to close the icon up top, which is the hamburger. So the overview is going to give kind of the setup type of information. Get ready to get paid. When it's all in QuickBooks, it's easy to see how much you're making and when it's in the bank. So you can set up the online in-person payments, let customers pay you with Apple Pay, credit cards. So you can have different kind of payment options, which you got to consider which are going to be the best types of payment options for the particular type of business that I'm in, and of course what's going to be the cost benefit analysis with regards to any kind of fees and charges with the different types of payment types. Get paid anywhere. Download the QuickBooks Go payment app so you're always ready to get paid with credit or debit cards. So again, that will possibly make certain types of payments a little bit easier. Send an invoice with your customer can pay online, get instant updates when they view and pay the invoices. So an attempt once again to automate the payment system, which will be dependent upon what kind of business you are in terms of what types of automation would be appropriate for you. We're going to go to the All Sales tab. This is going to give us a similar layout as we saw on the expenses side of things. They've got basically the items up top, which will help you sort a little bit more quickly. So these are basically quick filtering options. So we've got the estimates, unbilled activity. So this is unbilled activity. We got the overdue information here. These are going to be invoices that are overdue. The open invoices, all the invoices that have not yet received payment, and the paid last 30 days. Notice that these are basically just making filters on down below, which you can clear by selecting this item, which will give us all the detail then on down below. If we hit the drop down up top with regards to the filters, we're going to see that same kind of thing where you could see all of the different transactions that are related to basically the sales cycle or the accounts receivable cycle, and then we can choose particular items. So the ones that would be most common, if you had estimates, you might be looking at the estimates that have not yet been used or fulfilled to create invoices, but the invoices would most likely be one of the most common things you would be looking at here to sort for those invoices that are going to be open invoices. So if we go into this item, we could say, okay, there's all the invoices, which they had that nice quick sort option up here for the open invoices. And then what that really is doing is adding a filter for the items, the invoices that have are still open or outstanding. So if I go up top here, you could do the same thing by going to the invoices up top, and then you want to take a look at the invoices with the status of open or overdue invoices. So I'm going to say open invoices, apply that, and then you've got that filtering option. So these give you that kind of quick drill down option that apply filters, and these options here give you a little bit more detail and nuance. So if I wanted to look at the invoices, for example, that have been paid specifically, we can apply those invoices and we can see those more specific filters as well. We can select certain items and take action over here by selecting these items. We could do a batch action transaction up top and take an action based on those items. We also have the action dropdown on the right-hand side. So if we were looking at an invoice, we might send the invoice, we might share the invoice link, print the packing slip, view and edit the invoice, copy it, delete it, or void it, for example. Let's remove the filter. I'm going to clear all the filters here. We've got the invoice, we got the payments. Now, remember, these types of forms, the invoice would be something that is going to be billed, which we have not yet received payment, but we did work or provided goods or services, and accounts receivable goes up, sales go up. The payment is going to be the type of form that's going to represent us receiving payment. So if you're looking at an invoice, you could have the major activity would be that you're receiving payment on that particular invoice, and you can go here to basically kind of receive that payment in a nice quick fashion. We've got the refund type of transaction down here, a little bit more unusual of the transaction. Here we've got an estimate, so you could print the estimate in the drop down and update the estimate or copy the estimate here. Now the next item, if we go to the Invoices tab, we get a nice breakdown of just the invoices, and this is probably where much of the focus will be if you're working on the accounts receivable cycle, the sales cycle. Larger companies will spend, of course, a lot of time on the collection of, in essence, the receivable and sorting the receivable. So we got the overdue, the not yet due, the not deposited, and the deposited, and the recaps up top. If you click on these items, it once again basically filters it. So it's going to filter the data down below, and you can see it changing right here in the status menu. So if I click this item overdue, if I click this item not due, if I click this item not deposited, you can also do that filter here by just selecting the filter and saying I want to see all the transactions versus the ones that are overdue and not due, and so forth. You can take a look at the last transactions for the 12 months, year to date, and so on, and change basically the date range on the items down below, focusing specifically on the invoices. When you're on focus on the invoice, you might then have the receive payment. So this might be where you go to find the invoice that you're linking the payment to, creating the payment form from the invoice. Now the next place you might go is the customer area. So we go to the customer area, which is going to give us the detail of all the customers. These are the people that we're charging for the sales, and those charges for the sales might include invoices or the sales receipts in the activity, or some of the primary activity. We then have our filtering options up top, the quick filter options, which are the estimate, that we don't have any estimates in this particular company at this time. Unbillable activity, so unbilled activity, so this is the activity not yet billed here. And then we've got the overdue items, so these are the overdue invoices. And then we've got the open invoices, so not past due yet, but open. And then we've got the 12 paid last items that have been paid items. So most likely here, you'd be going here and you'd be searching for someone that might have a particular question, like a customer has a question about some activity in their account. You could find that customer, or you'd be sorting here for most likely the open or overdue invoices to apply possibly a payment to that invoice. So if this was an open invoice and we received the payment for it, then we can go here and say we're going to make a receive payment form basically from that invoice. So now we got the receive payment tying out to this invoice. We'll talk more about the receive payment form in a future presentation. And then we've got the products and services, which are going to be on the right hand side. And this is going to be items. So you might know these as basically inventory and service items if you're used to the terminology in the desktop version and other accounting software as well. They're going to call them products and services here, but these are the items that are going to populate the invoices. So when we create an invoice, we want to be able to use the proper items here so that it'll make the populating or the data input as easy as possible. So for example, if I right click on this tab up top and duplicate this tab, and we were going to bill someone, create an invoice with the plus button here and invoicing somebody for work that we had done, then it would be the easiest way to invoice them is to make the items as well designed as possible, so that you could just simply select the item and it will then populate for you on the right hand side. Now sometimes the rate and the amount would populate for you automatically. Whether it's going to be taxable or not will often populate for you automatically based on the items. So these items, which are going to be the products and the services, are critical underlying or underpinning items that everything else is going to lay on top of when you're looking at the sales type of cycle with regards to the charging of your customers with the invoices and the sales receipt. We'll talk a lot more about setting up these items in the second half of the course, when we start a new company file from scratch. When you're working with a company file that has already been set up and you're working as an employee, then you want to basically understand what the items are and how they're used to basically populate the invoices. And then take it a step beyond that and constructing the items, as we'll do in the second half of the course, will give you a better understanding of how the whole system is set up and how to set up a system.